Thank you. Welcome to the Town of Fort Smith special meeting SPO 325 of April 29th, 2025. I can confirm that we have quorum. I call this meeting at 6:32 p.m. The Mayor and Council wish to acknowledge the Town of Fort Smith is located within Treaty 8 territory. Treaty 8 territory also encompasses the traditional homelands of the Salt River First Nation, Smith Landing First Nation, and the Indigenous Métis people of Fort Smith. These nations have maintained stewardship of their sacred lands throughout the generations, and we honor your knowledge, teachings, traditions, and the land. We're mindful that colonization has not been kind, and we respectfully recognize our generational histories and commit to strive for unity in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. Okay, so Vice Council will move the agenda.
I move that the agenda be adopted as presented. I'll second.
Okay. Questions? All in favor? Perfect. All right, so we have someone to read the bylaw.
I'll do it. The council accept the 2025 Minority Bylaw as presented and recommended by the Corporate Services Standing Committee for its third reading.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Couvette. Questions? Comments? All in favor? Great, it is passed. Next, we have our financial statements of the presentation and approval. Do you want to move it and then we'll present? Okay, can I someone move it?
I'll move it. So I move that council approve the audited 2024 financial statements as presented by Avery Cooper and Co. Limited, recognizing that the statements fairly represent the financial position of the town of Fort Smith for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024.
Second by?
Sure.
Okay. Carl. Okay. And then I'll open the floor for discussion if you would like to present. So there.
Hi everyone, my name is William Senfuma. I'm sure I'm now a very familiar face in Fort Smith. I was hoping I was going to share a copy where I'm presenting, but it looks like the share option here is disabled on your end there, so I don't know whether that can be rectified.
Yeah, well, just a sec. We'll have our executive work on it. Or could you just
Okay.
send it to Executive Secretary at fortsmith.ca?
Okay. In the meantime, as I will work on this, I will start the presentation. So, like I said, my name is William Senfuma. I've been the auditor. I'm from Avery Cooper. I've been the auditor of the Hamlet for, I think this is the fourth year now. I will be presenting the draft audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2024. But I'm going to start with what we call the audit-specific items, the items that are very specific to the audit process. The first one is that we didn't have any significant changes in the format and the presentation of the annual financial statements from last year, but we expect some changes in the presentation. MACA, the department responsible for communities, they are doing some revisions to the financial reporting guidelines in this year, 2025. So we expect there will be some changes in the coming year, 2025. We didn't have any new accounting standards issued during the year, 2025. We expect there's going to be a big one, a big accounting standard change, which is effective April 1, 2026. And it's called the Public Sector Accounting Standards Section 1202, Financial Statement Presentation. So we expect a lot is going to go on in 2025 and 2026, especially because that new standard is significantly again going to change the way financial statements for public sector entities are presented. So we'll be keeping you posted on this one as we go along. So there's going to be a lot of work in 2026. Yet again, we are able to provide a clean audit opinion this year, just like we've done for the last almost all the time I've been auditing. There is a section in the auditor's report. I wish I could share here. Right here. Okay. So that section, that is the auditor's report. There is a section on management responsibilities for the audited financial statements. I don't know whether the secretary can scroll to that part of the financial statements, the auditor's report. There is a section for the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the audited financial statements. So those charged with governance is the mayor and the council in this case. So when you get time, you can look at, what are your responsibilities there. There is also a section for the responsibilities of the auditor for the financial statements and what actually the audit process entails. It's those two sections are really very important for both of you to understand each party's responsibilities. Now I'm going to just share with you some key highlights in the draft audited financial statements. Some of these highlights have actually been reported in the management discussion and analysis report prepared by management. So I don't know whether you can scroll to page 1 with the statement of financial position, statement 1, page 1.
It's there. We're there, William.
Okay, good. So the first part, the key highlight is there, the total financial assets. Those are the resources available for financial operations, and that total increased from 16.8 million to 18.8 million, 18.6, I'm sorry. That's an increase of about 1.8 million, or about 10% from last year. And the key item there in the total financial assets is the cash and cash equivalents, which is 13.2 million compared to 12.8 million last year. So out of the total 18.6 million, 13.2 million of that is cash and cash equivalents.
Which is really small. I have a question about our cash. Are we allowed to invest in it? If we have $13 million sitting in the bank, can't we take some of that to invest to make it?
Actually, most of this cash is restricted for your capital projects. So I wish I had I was the one scrolling, so I would give you the breakdown. So most of that cash is actually restricted for your capital projects, the community public infrastructure, and your reserves, and also the gas tax funding. So most of it is already in a way invested.
Okay.
Yeah. The net financial resources, which is the difference between your total financial assets and your liabilities or financial obligations. So it's not different. So if you have your financial resources, financial assets, less your financial obligations, the net is what we call the net financial resources. So that has jumped up from 5.4 million in 2023 to 7.2 million.
Does that mean we're not spending the money? Why did it jump so much?
Okay, sometimes it's because of especially the increase in cash. You have some capital project. You are as you will see, your capital costs this year, the amount you invested in capital assets was very low compared to the budget. I think Mayor, we discussed that when I was there. So you get money for it, sometimes like for community public infrastructure and gas tax, which is very restricted, and you don't spend as much as you receive. So, but that money is still available for you to use for next year.
You know that a lot of projects were delayed last year.
Yeah.
Then we have the non-financial resources. These are not financial assets. So you don't use really this to finance your operations, but they are used to provide services. You have like capital assets like buildings, motor vehicles, and stuff like that. Those are what we call non-financial resources. The total this year is around 51 million, which is just about the same number last year in 2023. But most of it is in your capital assets. Buildings, you can actually look at that schedule. It's schedule 1 on page 23. Schedule 1 on page 23 has your capital asset investment. So out of those non-financial assets, there were 51 million, 50.6 million of that total is actually your capital assets, buildings, machinery and equipment, motor vehicles, all that capital asset investment. So most of those non-financial resources are in capital assets. We have a schedule there, like I said, schedule 1, which has a summary of all your capital assets of 50.6 million.
William, did you want to try to put it up on your screen now?
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
Not that you probably could see it better. You might want to make it a lot bigger.
Yeah, is that something that is controlled from that side?
I made it bigger.
Well, you should be able to if he's presenting.
It's just the sheet content.
Okay, I got,
Can you scroll it? Do you have access to scrolling it? No.
just a moment.
Oh, he did that one bigger.
So what do you see? I don't see what you see for some reason.
That's not how it should share.
Okay.
No, it doesn't seem to be working. Sorry, Will. Willie, maybe just hit upon the high
Right.
points. Council did have the audited statements for the last weekend to go through, and maybe they might have some specific questions.
Okay. All right, so that is basically your statement of financial position. Those are the key highlights there, unless you have questions on that one. The other part is what we...
Does anyone have questions right now for William? No? Okay, all right, thank you, yeah, keep going.
Okay, the other statement, statement 2, statement of operations. Some people call it the income statement or revenue and expenditure report. Normally what it does, it shows you the amount of revenue from different sources and how that revenue was spent. That is on page 2. You will see that your overall revenue for this year.
William, they don't
about-
have the statements in paper in front of them. Fortunately, we thought that we would have it online. But they had it electronically. So again, we thought we'd just get the highlights.
Okay, so the amount of revenue, the total overall revenue was about 14.2 million this year, 14.5, sorry, against the budget of 14.5. So it's 14.2, which is about the same amount last year, 2023. That's the actual 14.2. Last year, it was just about the same number. The budget was 14.5 million. So the specific item there is your government transfers for your capital projects, which is down to 2.3 million compared to a budget of 3.4 million. So the budget was 3.4 million, you ended up at 2.3. Yeah. And the actual total revenue for 2024, the year we just audited, is about 98% of the budget. So it was lower by 98% of the budgeted amount. But that is just about the same percentage you had in 2023. Last year, 2023, we were at 99% of the budget. So the actual amount total was lower than budget by 1%.
That's good. That's good. We didn't go.
For the total expenses, when you look at that page 2, you will see that total expenses are presented by what we call a function, by function. Expenses can be presented by function or by object. So by function, what we mean is by department, government services, water and sewage, recreation, stuff like that. And then we have another scale that breaks down expenses by object. So object is the nature, the type of expense, regardless of the department. For example, salaries and wages across all departments, or materials and supplies, total, regardless of the function. So total expenses by function in the statement of operations, the total for 2024 is $12.3 million. And that is about $800,000 above budget. So you see that your budget was, just give me a second here. The budget was 11.5 million and the actual is 12.3. Yeah, the budget was 11.5 million and the actual was 12.3. Last year, the actual was about 12.6 million. So it's really just about the same number, just 12, that's about 300,000 lower than last year, but higher than budget by about 800,000 total overall expenses, regardless of which function or object.
Why were we over budget, or what happened there for 2024?
You were higher than budget.
But
Is that
why
right?
were we higher than budget?
Yeah, by about 800,000.
Why?
Why?
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm going to take you to expense by object, which is section page 41, schedule 8. Page 41, schedule 8.
Sorry, I'm just gonna move.
This one will show you which expense type was actually higher. As to the actual reason, I think that's really management. Administration can explain that. But you can look at those expense categories and see where the increase is coming from, especially.
Okay.
What's our bad debts? What's the big one?
Well, actually, amortization is quite high. A lot of it was amortization. That is about there's 500,000 there and almost 300,000 in bad debts. So there's your 8 right there.
Is bad debts like taxes, or is it unrecoverable, like fees, water bills, dusters and stuff?
Yes,
Yeah? Okay.
but most of it, was it the taxes? Did we write off?
Are you talking about amortization?
No, it's just what made up the bad debts.
We set up a larger allowance this year for bad debts. We took basically any accounts receivable, utility billing, that were over 90 days, and we set up an allowance for those as bad debts. We may be able to recover a lot of that through other collection actions, but in order to present the statements, we set that up as an allowance. And also, there were property tax accounts that were like over 2 years old, so we set up all of those as bad debts as well. And again, we may be able to recover that through other means such as public auctions and that type of thing. So We haven't had much luck over the last couple of years in selling properties at public auction, but that is still a process that we go through and that we are able to recover some of that money. But it's important for us to be fiscally responsible to set up an allowance for those, and if we are able to recover the money, then we can reduce that in the coming years.
So it actually just moved, okay, because we had it coming in as receivables, we just changed where it was. It was like, we had it, so we're not actually,
It's still reported as revenue coming in,
okay,
but in order to offset that for accounts that we may be able to collect, may not be able to collect,
right.
we also have to have an offsetting expense account
Okay.
in order to fairly report what we're anticipated to be able to recover or collect.
One area I was a bit wondering, a little bit of a better idea of what it is miscellaneous expenses, because we're 90,000 over, a little over 90,000 on that particular line.
The GPF, do you know off the top of your head? 'Cause I
If
don't
not,
have it.
if you
That would have been one of those emails. Could have had that answer.
Yeah, I don't have the answer for that.
Okay, I'll send you an email.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, so
go on, William.
your overall annual surplus for the year increased from 1.6 million in 2020. When I talk about surplus, you can think of profit. From 1.6 million in 2023 to about 1.9 million in 2024. That's just about 300,000 increase from last year. And your overall accumulated surplus or accumulated profits increased by that number, 1.9 million, from 56.5 million in 2023 to 58.4 million this year, 2024. So that change is actually the change during the year of 1.9 million. Now, there is, like I said, I'm just picking out the highlights. There is a schedule which I think you are very much interested in. We have quite a number of schedules there. When you look at the statement of operations, you see that we have expenses, schedule for expenses for general government services. So we have the total there. When you look at schedule number 1A, it will give you a breakdown of those expenses for the general government services. Same thing for public safety and protective services, public works and transportation, recreation and culture services, water and sewage services, and environmental fund. Now, the totals you have on the statement of operations are broken down on each of those schedules. Now, the one that I actually picked out is the one for water and sewer services, which is Schedule 1E, page 28. Now, that schedule is page 28 and Schedule 1E, water and sewer services. You will see that last year, 2023, you had a significant deficit in that fund of about 673,000. When I say deficit, we are looking at revenue minus expenses there for 2023. You see there was a huge deficit there of 673,000. Now, this is very important because if you have a deficit there, your bylaws require that you do the transfers from your general operating to cover that deficit. Now, that deficit has gone down significantly in 2024 to just under $4,000. And that's because last year you had a reduction in water charges revenue because of the fire evacuation, if you remember. So there was a lot of revenue lost because of that, and that's why you had a huge deficit there.
The council waived 3 or 4 months worth of.
We did actually.
The other schedule is, I don't know if you have any questions on that one, but yeah, that's the highlight there. That's you can, when you look at Schedule 1E, you see that your revenue has significantly gone up, especially customer charges for water and sewage. There is another schedule we just talked about, is Schedule 8, page 41, which is the expenses by object. we just looked at that one. It's a summary of the expenses regardless of the function. So if you're looking at wages and salaries and wages and benefits, you are looking at the total for all functions. If you're looking at supplies and material, regardless of whether the general government services or recreation. So that will give you the changes from last year and also against budget. And then it will give you really the changes, the movement between those expense types. So the total should match with the total we have on the statement of operations on page 2, which is $12.3 million. The rest of the pages of the financial statements provide information about accounting policy choices you've adopted, more information in form of notes, and schedules regarding the balances in the financial statement. So when you look at some of the schedules and the notes, you will see just the more breakdown of those numbers we just looked at on the statement of financial position and the statement of operations. It will just give you more details about what makes up those balances. Because on the statement of financial position and the statement of operations, we have totals. So the other pages will break down those numbers to give you a little more detailed understanding of what makes up those totals. Now, there is another report, the Memorandum of Accounting Systems and Internal Control, that identifies weaknesses and our recommendations for your review and discussion with management. I would like to extend our thanks to the Mayor and the Council for keeping us as your auditors, and for management and staff of the town for the support you rendered to the successful completion of the audit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, does anyone here have any questions?
Maybe for Jim.
Okay, all right, go ahead. Al.
I feel like I'm just reading the summary page, and it says, along with property taxes in arrears, there's a considerable number of accounts receivable have been overdue. Like, give me an example of what types of those accounts we're talking about.
I can't give you a specific example. One thing that we've noticed in the past is that there are a fair number of things like ambulance calls and that type of thing that we bill out and we have a difficult time to collect because it's not applicable to any property or anything specific that tangible that we can collect. So that has been an item in the past that has been fairly hard to collect. I believe there are also some big items on there that were levied several years ago that probably should have been written off. But along with that receivable, we also have the offsetting bad debt allowance to cover those off. So I mean, I can make note and give you some.
Well, I just kind of wanted to know. Like,
yeah,
it's not just water bills. People are behind on a month or something.
No, because we have had a turnover in staff, we haven't been as diligent in collecting water bills as we should be. But in the coming months, we will start doing the disconnection notices and collection of the water bills in a more diligent manner. And also, we have the ability to transfer them to property taxes. So we kind of like to do that around the time when the tax bills come out. Unfortunately, this year, I don't think we're going to have an opportunity to do that, but that doesn't stop us from doing it and adding it to the bill anytime and notifying the customers that that's an option or that action is going to be taken. But we like to start with giving utility bill customers the opportunity to pay the bills, and the other options are disconnection or transfer to property taxes.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Correct?
Yeah. I know this was talked about a couple of councils back, was looking at the possibility with some of the uncollectible debts that can't be transferred to the property tax component, that we would look at potentially turning those accounts over to a collector to, like, yeah, even if we get, it's 20 cents or 30 cents on the dollar, it's better than nothing at all. And that way there, it's off of our books, and it does impact the person that's being collected against, because it will more readily show up on their credit checks and things like that. Their accounts have that actually turned over to collection agency. So I think there might be more of an emphasis for people, rather than just saying, they'll write it off in 5 years. They know we're going to turn it over to a collection agency, and it's going to impact their long-term debt or their long-term credit rating. It may be a little more obliging at fulfilling their financial obligations to the town.
Thank you. SAO or Director?
That is certainly an option that we can look at, and what we need to do is an analysis of those accounts receivable accounts and see which ones are eligible for that. I know that there are some where the person who's been billed has passed away and that type of thing. So, some of those we may need to look at that as far as maybe go through the process of writing off some of those debts again, like was done a few years ago. But we will do a detailed analysis of the accounts receivable, and we will take the collection steps that we need to collect it to the best of our ability. And if we find that we can't collect it, well, then we can make recommendations to council on writing it off and applying it against that bad debt that allowance that we've already set up.
Thank you. Councilor Pegler?
I mean, is there any opportunity for them to maybe set up a payment plan or something?
I'm pretty sure we have a process for
Like
that.
before you
Yeah,
go into that big step?
We're certainly willing to entertain any opportunity for people to clear out their debts. If that is a payment plan, then we're willing to do that. I know we've done it on a number of occasions with property taxes, setting up a payment plan in order to pay off the property taxes and then any other additional taxes that are levied in the period. I think in the past we've done up to a 30-month payment plan for property taxes, where they clear out their accounts and then the taxes that are levied during that period also get covered and any penalties. It's a good way if you're in arrears to, come up with a plan to pay it off, and we're certainly willing to entertain those things. And we can also, with accounts receivable and that type of thing, like people can come in and put a payment down on their account anytime that they want to. And certainly when we get to doing the disconnection notices and that type of thing for utilities, we certainly allow customers the opportunity to clear up their account before we go directly to disconnection. So we're always about trying to clear up the accounts for minimum impact, but at some point we need to move that money from a receivable into cash.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Right on. I want to thank you, William.
Thank you.
For your report, and I know if we have any questions, we will reach out to you. And I'm glad we had a positive financial report, right? We were good?
Yeah.
Your overall findings? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, overall, okay. Mm-hmm.
And I know we argued, I said, oh, we always have risk, and it made you mad. You're like, no, you guys are good, you have low risk. And I'm like, no, we have, I remember, you're like, trying to change my opinion, so. So we have a motion on the floor to approve our financial statements as presented. Any other discussion? Okay.
I just wanna, I don't know if it's part of this because it's on the town of Fort Smith on the letterhead, but so our deferred revenue has increased by $680,000.
You're asking, so, are,
Do you know about the management discussion letter? Our deferred revenue is increased by 600,000, so that would be the funds that we have moved forward.
So the deferred revenue is basically money that we have already received, but we've been unable to spend. So if you look at note 8 on page 13 of the financial statement, it gives you a breakdown of the deferred revenue, and it shows there that in 2024, our gas tax funding was about the same as 2023, but our community public infrastructure is up considerably, and that's the only number that's up. So that is unspent capital dollars that we have to hold on to, that we can spend in future years for future capital projects. So that's what the deferred revenue number is.
Good question. All right, any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, it is passed. Thank you for presenting, and we will talk to you again, William.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's see, next moving on. Next one. We have the next item on the agenda. If someone wants to read it in, move in second, and then we'll talk about it.
I can
Okay.
I'll move that council approve a budget increase of $299,000. They're $299,040 for the raw water intake rehabilitation project to be funded through the deferral of town retrofit project, $250,000, and a reduction in the scope of the arena upgrade project, $49,040. This recommendation ensures the continued delivery of critical infrastructure along with the town's strategic priorities while maintaining flexibility in the capital program.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
All right, discussion? Yeah, okay.
So if we have that amount, but we're being deferred into capital projects, like why can't we use it to cover these?
So the 600,000 that's in deferred, why can't we use it for this?
Correct.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so do you remember when we did our capital budget? So we fully utilized our capital budget for the year. This is an additional amount of money that, like, that deferred was calculated into our capital budget, how much money we had to spend.
Okay.
That included that amount. That was all included in that 18 million at the top. This is how much you have available, and then we went through and we've assigned projects to utilize that.
Okay.
This is now an increase that we did not budget for, and so basically we have to take it from somewhere else to make that difference up. So I chose the town hall retrofits. I don't think it's probably gonna happen this year, so it's kind of an easy one, and then a recreational one, because this is critical infrastructure that the town needs. So I just sort of went through all of our capital budgets and what isn't likely gonna happen, and what can we live without. Always in hopes that we get the funding for CHIP.
thank you.
Did that answer that, Councilor Beaver?
Yes and no, because we have some money in the bank from previous years.
But that was included in that budget. Like, here's how much of the pie we have to spend, and then we went through and we decided how to spend it. That was included in that pie. Like, that's where that amount of money that we have to use for capital projects included that amount. So we've already drawn
It
out
could be
of
also
that.
earmarked for another project, right? So even though it's cash, it's not actually, it's like restricted cash. It's like, yeah, you got that money in the bank, but actually you have to use it for that project. If we don't use it for that project, we're gonna take it away and we have to return it.
Okay, does it come from federal funds?
Correct. Well, it comes from specific.
Oh, I see, sorry, I missed what
Yeah.
you were saying. Yeah, some of them are absolutely, they're one project. This amount of money can only be used for project A. You can't move it anywhere else.
Copy.
So it's spoken for.
Thank you.
Does that make better sense?
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No, Councilor Covet?
I know this is more operational, it's just, with the 250,000 from the retrofit project, I would really like to see, if nothing else, a bit of the money be used to actually paint our town hall. It has become an eyesore, and I think we, as part of our community leadership, we should be leading by example and showing people that we have some pride in our one of our main assets. I would hate to see us leave it unpainted for another year. I would be, hopefully we get the CHIP funding, but if not, we should look at least finding some funding to at least paint the front half of the building, so that when people drive by, it doesn't, like it, to be honest, it looks like an eyesore and paint peeling, and we're going to tell people that they gotta look after their properties, and we write them up for unsightly bylaws and things like that. And here we are, when do we write ourselves a ticket for unsightly bylaw? So I just want to get that out there that we still have to, even though we might not replace windows and doors and things like that, I think, put some lipstick on the pig.
Thank you, Mike and Councillor Courvette. Any other questions?
We actually do have our engineer online to answer any technical questions that I didn't feel I would be able to answer.
All right, Councillor Cox?
Thank you. Yeah, I think this makes sense, and I think it's well explained, and in this case, it was fairly unavoidable. In reading through it, I was thinking of some of the reports with the NTPC stuff, just where stuff was grossly under budgeted. I don't think this was the case in this account. I think it's a good reminder to budget as accurately as we can, I guess, because there's potential federal funding that we maybe could have grabbed for that. But this stuff makes sense. I assume by having this system, we can keep the copper dam panels, and then if we need to do work in the future for the intake, this would be able to be reused and reuse this stuff in the future.
Would that answer that one?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, absolutely. That's the town's property. It will be the town's property.
Thank you. Any other questions about the briefing note on request? Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, and maybe I'm not as well versed in reading some of these technical things, but was something missed in the original tender that now this is an additional cost, or like how do we come up with like a $300,000 hit after a substantial tender was given out for $4.5 million, like, or was it always understood that there were some unknowns that would have to come back and be addressed? I'm trying to understand the process.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. That it's the second point. As you all are aware, this project was tendered 3 times. In the initial go-around, we had included this in the scope, and we were getting calls, and some of the inquiries and some of the comments were referring to this work as costing well over $1 million. So to avoid that over budget result in the tender, we pulled this work aside and put it as a smaller cash allowance in the tender, and kind of parked it so that we could get all the things done that were known and accessible, and then deal with this with a little bit more time with the successful proponent, successful contractor. And what we've done over the last few months is gone back and forth and come up with a good solution that we agreed upon. We had to work them down a bit on their price, but we did do that, and I think what you're getting now is the best you're going to get. So our recommendation is to go ahead with that scope change.
Thank you. Did you get the email today? Any other questions?
Well, so then that $30,000 that we added in to the original tender as a contingency or whatever was woefully underestimated then. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, it was just a ballpark estimate at the time. As everybody's aware, construction costs are just out of control lately, and it's no different with this additional scope. So we did have a smaller cash allowance, and that smaller cash allowance, by the way, will be taken off that 300. And I think we found some additional savings too that probably could equate to another 15 or 20. So we might be able to get it down an additional, from that number, 300, we'd probably get it down another 50,000.
There's our paint.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Cox?
Thanks. Yeah, one more question. I was just looking at the photograph here of the, looks like a drone shot of the intake. And that shows that, it looks like the intake screen is actually above water line there. Was that during the really low water time, or is there a second intake?
There's actually 3 more screens below at the water level.
Oh, okay.
So those are the ones we want to get to. This project is a complete in-kind replacement of all the process equipment, all the electrical. We're adding another, there's another, 5 square meters of floor space, and it's a major rehabilitation and retrofit. So we want to replace everything in there. And these screens and the valves that are on the inside of the screens, on the inside of the chambers, the only way to access that is to be able to close dam back the water with the coffer dams, and then they can get in, drop down ladders through their temporary scaffolding around the outside of the building. So this is the best time to do it. And then we'll have a complete in-kind replacement of, and a lot of upgrades as well to the raw water intake.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. On the motion on the floor, all in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. There we go. Thank you very much, Nick, for being on the line and answering our questions.
All right, have a great evening. Go
Yeah.
Oilers, go.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, we are going to, exclusion of councilors. If I can someone move.
I move that Deputy Mayor Keiser and Councillor Tuckey be excused from the special meeting of council on April 29th, 2025.
Perfect.
I second it.
Right on. All in favor? Perfect. There's no one in the public comment question period. There's not, right? No one called again or anything like that? No? Okay. So if we can have adjournment.
I move we adjourn at 7:19.
Perfect. Seconder? Okay. Councillor Cox, we are adjourned. Or all in favor, sorry. Okay, perfect. Thank you.